All right, we're ready. Paul, go for it. Sorry to cut you off, brother. Go ahead.
Oh, good. Oh, good. I guess I'm just curious, I've been using, your templates to kind of move some of my internal stuff forward. And one that's kind of like I'm just thinking about a lot is with you when you integrate like your keywords into like the main keyword column and that best keyword column,
Hmm.
like I'm thinking it feels like that could be optimized, that those two columns in a way, meaning
Sure.
like uh looking at it, like I like to do a lot of keyword research first, just to kind of get a broader sense of where the category is. And so it seems like, looking at just where they are ranking and not looking even at your competitors where they're ranking, in these terms, feels like a missed opportunity. And I think that, you know, I'm actually kind of tweaking this thing internally myself.
Good. Yeah.
But I was just curious if like the templates that you guys are kind of sharing in this tool,
Mhm.
in this service is like kind of like your like, sort of older model. If you've ever done anything to kind of optimize even just
Yeah.
those
Good
sections.
question. So first and foremost, like change it as you see fit for your business.
Yeah.
One of the challenges of running this business at the Blueprint Training is trying to kind of democratize everything for a
Yeah.
wider audience, when in reality they need to be hyper customized to meet the needs of all your specific systems and processes, right? We try and give you a blanket one here that is very specific, but at the end of the day, I only work with attorneys. If you're working with e-com stores or whatever, it's going to be a different type of SEO.
Yeah.
Uh, so we built everything into sheets so you can edit it. So first and foremost, there's going to be plenty of redundancies. There's plenty of things that can be optimized, and I encourage you to do that on your own. Um, Anything that you see fit,
Yeah.
you own it, it's yours, change it. That being said, let me just comment on keyword research because we don't really do it. And I'm going to tell you why. Um, Part of like a core tenant that I've been preaching here for the better part of 2 years now is specialization. And it's getting even more important because of what's happening with Google, how competitive it's getting, how hard it's getting to actually break into the SERPs, and the need to potentially add on ancillary offers like paid search. LSAs is another big one that if you're working with local businesses, you have to be doing LSAs. It's the easiest and fastest way to generate leads or interest for any local business at a very reasonable cost. So it's really hard to do that though if you're not specialized. If you're working with e-commerce stores and then an attorney and then a doctor's office and then a SaaS company, like it creates so much backlog in terms of systems and processes within your agency that it's impossible to go deep. And when I say go deep, that means really solve the problem and continuously optimize against solving that problem for your client. It's just damn near impossible. So the reason why we don't do keyword research anymore is because we've already done it. Because every time we walk into a new campaign with a client, it's Groundhog's Day. We're doing the same thing over and over again, which some people look at it in the SEO space and like, oh, that's bad. You're doing a disservice by our client. And I say, no, it's the opposite, because instead of me throwing spaghetti at the wall for the first 60 days, I know on day one exactly what we're doing, and I know exactly how to get them results, and we're following an exact plan that's gotten results before in the past, which frees up time for us to go and continuously solve that problem to a better extent. The past month, we've been having more and more conversations with clients about full funnel optimization from a lead generation point of view, which they've never had that conversation with an agency, specifically a search agency point of view. What I mean by that is I just got off a call with a client, criminal defense attorney in San Diego. And on the front end, we're driving leads into their business. I put leads in air quotes because when I talk about full funnel optimization, it might make more sense, for $100. And that on the front end is great. That's where most agencies would stop. They'd say, yeah, we're doing paid search, we're doing SEO, you're getting X amount of traffic, and the leads are coming in from paid for $100. That client we needed to have a conversation with them because they were like, look, like we're not making money off of this because these leads, they're not really qualified. We only actually close, let's say they got 100 leads, they only closed 10 cases off of it. And they're like, look, if we're going to keep at this spend with your retainer, we need to be closing a minimum of 15 cases off of this per month. So that allowed us to go back to the drawing board and then really continuously optimize against what a lead is and say, okay, we don't care about form submissions or phone calls anymore. The only thing that we care about and that we really want to optimize against is a qualified lead, meaning somebody who is qualified to have a consultation with an attorney that actually has a case and could actually become a client. Not that they're all going to become clients, but you know what I mean? So we're building out this full funnel optimization now that kind of filters out that top funnel. We call it an MQL, a marketing qualified lead, a form submission, a chat, a phone call, to an SQL, which is a sales qualified lead, which means somebody that's actually qualified for the services, to then actually has a consultation with an attorney, and then at the bottom actually close into a client. And now we're able to optimize all of our services against making sure that we're driving the greatest business value for that client. Now, if we were stuck doing keyword research and like technical SEO optimizations and trying to figure out what content, blog content we're going to create, we'd never be able to get that deep into what we're doing for that client. We'd never be able to provide that level of service, if that makes sense. So that's just kind of me on my soapbox talking about how I've been like telling this to SEOs for the longest time, that SEOs, and I'm not saying this is you, Paul, I'm just using this as a conversation starter. I'm not saying keyword research is bad, because keyword research is necessary, but keyword research is redundant if your agency isn't optimized, right? Because if you're working with different clients, you're basically just going to spin your wheels, and you're never going to be able to provide that level of service that the client needs in markets like today, which means political uncertainty, economic uncertainty, currency uncertainty, just general business uncertainty, cost economics uncertainty. You need to make people money, man. Like, you have to be making people money. It's no longer enough to just rank them or create content. Those days are gone. Like, the fluff has been cut out of this market. So again, that's just kind of my soapbox. I know you have some follow-ups, Paul. Go ahead.
No, no, I totally agree with everything you're saying there.
Yeah.
I think, there, I don't want to like get lost in like the merits
No.
of keyword research because I think, in your niche, you've, I've looked at all of your materials. I mean, you've basically learned what exactly this
Yeah.
website architecture needs to be, what kind of content, basically turns a lead into a qualified lead, I assume, something like that. You've kind of already looked at it, and now you're just kind of replicating that model, optimizing it across, as best you can, but really replicating it across different markets. And so you really don't have to, the markets between cities are not going to make much of a difference, in what your keyword research is going to share.
Yeah.
So anyway, I totally hear you. Yeah, I mean, and also like generating pipeline, man, that's the way to be. Like
Yeah.
you gotta just make that work, sometimes it's easier than others. In fact, I just got off a call. We just working on a SaaS business, B2B SaaS. They just got started this year. They're brand new, just got funded, and but they're struggling because they're so dependent on enterprise sales,
Yeah.
and the sales cycle is just way too long for them. So now they're having to like drop down to a different market that they really didn't build the website, their business for.
Yeah.
So they're kind of scrambling now. So it's like it's a challenge because they're in a very competitive space, and that market is just like saturated. So it's like, trying to find the signal in the noise in search you know, is not always easy. And sometimes the keyword research helps you in that, but oftentimes it's, you got to kind of look outside the box, which kind of brings me to another question I have for you.
Sure.
I'm curious to get your take on LinkedIn and how you sort of see LinkedIn working for you and your business, your clients, and how you sort of, if there are like anything, is there any like thing that you want to kind of know from your clients up front? If they, I don't know if I know you're only interested in the legal side, so maybe
Mhm.
that's really precludes like a conversation around LinkedIn. But I think where my head's at now is like uh, my SEO hat is really where I start. But then
Sure.
I really have a conversation. Once I have a conversation with my clients, they're probing me about like, what can we do on LinkedIn? That's where my market is. That's where people are talking. Like, how do I build a content strategy or build pipeline through LinkedIn? It's like I don't know if really, like where should we start is usually a
Sure.
question in my head. Like we want to do both, but where do we really want to spend our time? So I don't know
Sure.
if you've ever gotten that sort of question or sort
Yep.
of
No,
been thinking about it.
it's a very good question. So for us, so like I use LinkedIn personally because for Blueprint marketers, I mean, LinkedIn has basically become a platform for marketers. So for me selling Blueprint, it's like shooting fish in a barrel, right? For my attorney clients, though, I don't really find it worth their time to be posting on LinkedIn. Plus, LinkedIn is just, it's a cesspool. I can't even go on LinkedIn anymore. I find no value in my feed. I find no value in my messages. I find value hiring people there and promoting my own shit. That's the only really value I get from LinkedIn.
Okay.
Personally, that's just my personal opinion. I just think it's become a cesspool of just self promotion, and it's not a place that I get much value from. Now, that doesn't mean that there's no value for myself as a marketer or for your clients. And to answer your question, let me just explain it to you how essentially your question is how do I add on an ancillary service to SEO when it's not really like a natural tack on, right? Like it doesn't follow the same process as SEO. It's a different type of content. It's something that you haven't done for. Is that essentially what you're asking?
I think just generally speaking, it's like when does it make sense to start
Yeah,
on LinkedIn as opposed to SEO or organic search? Because
as an offer for your clients or for you
yeah,
to.
it's like, look, I'll have a discovery call and they'll describe to me like who my market is, and I'm like, okay, LinkedIn seems like a right spot for us, but you came to me for SEO, and not to say that I don't want you to do SEO now, but it's like, is there a is there a model that really, from an SEO perspective, really works
Yeah.
these days?
Yeah,
For LinkedIn.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So you're in the right place because this is also so like I just this is also why specialization is so important because I tell people in my inner circle coaching program all the time, like you service your client, you don't service SEO or Google. Like stop being romantic about SEO. SEO is dying. Like I'll be the first one to tell you that. I've made millions of dollars off SEO. It sucks, but SEO is dying, guys. Like it's not an impactful service as it used to be. For some clients, yes. And you're already starting to see that by asking that question to yourself, right? And that's what I try and embody here in the blueprint too, which is we are agencies with the goal of making your clients money, not of ranking a website in Google, right? For a long time, Google was the best way to do that. Now it's only the best way to do that for certain business models. And a lot of business models, it shouldn't even be on the table. Like, unless you're going to try and do SEO in house, don't even waste your money, right? So that means you as an agency needs to know how to continuously drive forward, which is ultimately getting results for your clients. And if LinkedIn is that place, I will tell you how we're doing it right now because not that we're doing LinkedIn for our clients, but we're in the middle of a mass, not pivot, but tack on of meta ads, just like moving more to becoming a paid agency because for law firms, 90% of them can't compete in Google anymore. They just can't. The 10% that can, we'll take it, we'll crush it for them with SEO and local SEO. But frankly, like I'm having to turn away so many leads because I'm just like, I can't take 8 grand from you knowing that like it's just no matter what we do, it's just not going to work for you. So I have been driving nonstop in terms of learning, in terms of testing, in terms of trying to figure it out how we can get meta ads to work as a lead generation platform for law firms because it's much cheaper. Like for the same price, we'll call it $5,000 a month of spend on SEO versus Meta. I can get leads for you within 30 days and like pretty good ones too, and at a much lower cost than for Google PPC. So what we've been doing, Paul, is I have gone to 3 clients of ours that have been with us for more than a year, and I've said to them, I'm going to be honest with you guys, like SEO is good, you're having success with it, but we are going to start doing meta ads and I want to do it for you for free. Like, can you give me 3 months of your time? If you're interested, all you have to do is put up the ad spend and I will give you $4,000 a month of free services. This is what it entails. I have like a one sheet. I do it for Blueprint all the time. I put together like a one sheet. You see it for our boot camps. It's just a Google Doc that's like, this is the problem, right?
Mhm.
Rising costs in Google, rising competition. So I like frame the problem for them and then I put together our solution. And within that solution, hold on a second. Within that, within that solution, it has essentially everything that we're going to do from them, and like also what's expected. So like video editing, copywriting, offer design, like all this different stuff. And now I'm testing that with a few clients to try and get this thing figured out and dialed in, because 2025 for me is going to be all about pushing paid offers on top of clients for SEO, for like the SEO leads that we can't service, which are becoming more and more. So to answer your question, Paul, like you just kind of have to figure it out by doing and kind of like failing forward with clients who there's not a lot of like low, or dude, honestly, like we do this too. Just sometimes you got to jump off the cliff and figure out how to open up the parachute on the way down, like, and that means if you're getting a lot of demand, because this all started for me because I've been hearing nonstop on like more and more and more over the course of the year that a lot of these attorneys are turning to lead generation companies that are just selling them leads, selling them leads, selling them leads, selling them leads. And through like my own research, my own networking, I've gotten in touch with some of these lead generation firms. I've secret shopped some of them too. And like, they're just using Facebook ads. And like, I'm sitting here being like, yo, if these guys can do it and they're selling leads for $400, that means they're probably generating for $200. That's a problem that I have to be able, that's a problem I have to be able to solve. I'm not worthy of running this business to get it to the next level if that's a problem that I can't solve with me and my team, So it's so like I have made it a big hairy goal of this business. By the end of this year, we're going to figure out Facebook ads. And then I know too that like going into 2025, I can crush selling it because all I have to do is run Facebook ads being like, hey, attorneys, you see this ad? Like I can do the same thing for you and I can generate you leads for $200 or less. Like shooting fish in an effing barrel. Like so like part of this is just kind of having like you're doing a good job because you have your pulse on the finger of the business. You're hearing these things. Don't run from it. Like don't just because you do SEO be like, we don't do that, we don't touch that. If you're hearing that over and over from prospects, it means the market wants it, right? And you can develop an offer because you've already got this kind of sense of interest from them for you to be able to build on it and do it. You just got to kind of figure out how to do it. And that's, the $1 million question, but you can figure it out. It's not rocket science. There's trainings out there. Look at Justin Welsh. Justin Welsh is somebody who's got like a good training on LinkedIn stuff. I don't know if you've seen him before. I bought his stuff. We have a good training inside the Blueprint too. Brennan Huffer taught it. LinkedIn is just copywriting, man. That's all it is. It's literally just copywriting. That's kind of the beauty of it. You don't really need video. You just need a copywriter. And what I've done for clients before in the past, I've just gone out and hired a copywriter. They charge like $200 a post. I just pass it on to the client. So
Okay.
I got a bunch of other questions here, Paul. I'm going to move on.
Yeah, thanks.
Terry, go ahead, brother.
What's going on, Ryan?
What's
Got a few questions. So, I have a client that I'm going to be running ads for here in the next few weeks, and they're in the architecture space, right? So, just me kind of doing a little bit of preliminary research, kind of found this market a little interesting, and also the position that they hit their first seven-figure year last year, but a lot of the projects that they have going on are not quite finished yet. So, the architecture space is heavily visual, right? When you're showcasing your projects, you're showing photos and so forth of what the projects are. Now, my question is because, and this is one of the reasons why I even got into the Blueprint, because you had a case study that talked about this company that did lighting as a service, which is somewhat adjacent in terms of it's a B2B company. You're working with high profile agents or high profile clientele. And what I wanted to learn was, I guess as me going into this space, planning to run ads here soon, I guess what were some of the hiccups and things that you learned along the way when we were talking about marketing these sort of businesses?
Yeah, great question. I still work with that company that it's going on 2 years now. So I won't say that it's one-to-one. I would call it like adjacent to what you're doing. The
Yeah.
difference being with lighting as a service is that it's so niche, like so niche that we had to take a very horizontal approach, meaning a lot of the times we kind of want to go deep with like
Mhm.
SEO, like one service, you can go very deep with it. Like with SEO, you can create a ton of content going very deep with it. But with this, we had to go very horizontal because there was very little demand. There's very little search demand. There's very little market demand. There's very little market understanding and awareness of that lighting as a service even existed. And just looking at keyword data, we could confirm that like lighting as a service gets searched for like 50 times a month nationally. Like it's nothing.
Okay.
So there's a massive issue with just a lack of awareness of what this service is. And that was very
Yeah.
difficult for us to tap into it with SEO. So what we had to do was we had to look for keywords from a search point of view that were very industry specific, that people that we could glean as in market, right, would potentially be interested in this if we were to get them on a sales call and educate them about the offer, right? So what I mean by that is we were looking at, so this lighting as a service only works with essentially like enterprise level buildings, jails, schools, hospitals, airplane hangars, like Walmart's, like massive, massive, massive facilities that currently use fluorescent lighting, right? So what we did is we started looking at these different industry topics. So like jail, schools, blah, 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 and then just aligning that with lighting keywords. So like lighting for schools, LED lighting for schools, fluorescent lighting for schools, like all these different keywords, which again, there wasn't a lot, but when we started to add them up, it started to stack up to enough volume to create an SEO and a paid search campaign off the back of it. So SEO, we just created landing pages going. So if you go to the website, it's feslighting.com. You can see all the industry pages that we've created, and those have started to rank pretty well for them.
Yeah, I've seen that. Okay.
And then so we combined that with a paid search campaign, which has done very, very well for them and is now driving. We've done so well for them that we got off of our retainer and moved to a percentage of sales off of the leads that we've generated. Yeah, it's been a very lucrative contract for us. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I guess to that point, that was a few points that I forgot to mention there. So to give you some further context, so they're trying to get more clients in the aviation space. So it kind of sounds like it's kind of similar in that situation to where there wasn't a lot of keyword research data, a lot of search volume for these keywords, and for good reason, right? Who's building airports for the
Yeah.
most part? So I guess you're kind of what you're saying is like, okay, you need to be thinking about the different aspects of the aviation sector. So targeting keywords like terminal design and so forth, correct?
So tell me exactly what it is that they want to sell and who they want to sell it to.
So they're looking to get more aviation clients. So I guess terminal designs, terminal designs is one of the main things that they're looking to get into. But I think there's some questions I really have to deep dive into in the specifics of the different facets or different aspects of the market that they're really trying to tap
So
into. But a lot of
yeah,
them are like government officials
yeah,
and things of that nature that they're trying to get
that's a
into.
very, very another very tough niche industry. So the options that you have is you like if you so like the thing that we struggled with is we couldn't identify the who. And marketing is all
Yeah.
about the who, right? Like because then you can target it, you can create content for it, you can speak to them. We couldn't identify who because the people that owned these buildings that made like these decisions were all over the place, from like super uber wealthy people to like CEO. Like we couldn't target them, right? Like with outbound, with we couldn't do any of these things. So with you, if you can identify who, right? If you're like, okay, we do under like there might not be a demand here, but we can derive the person who would be interested in this and making a decision on this. And then you can run campaigns like webinar campaigns, right? By just targeting the who. So you create a problem, like a piece of content that solves a specific problem for that type of audience. And then you just run ads to that audience to try and get them, to get them to join. That would be one.
Okay.
And if you can identify the who too, then that opens up outbound sales. Like this probably isn't within scope of what you do, but like we had to do like industries like this are sales driven industries. They're not marketing driven industries because when there's not enough awareness in the market for the product or the service, or you can't identify a specific who like us, then ultimately like you're going to need to have a sales team that is banging down doors and like feeds off of the small amount of leads that marketing can give it, right? So like even with this client, I have been with them for 2 years, and I basically told them like in the first month, I was like, we are only going to be able to impact you on a small level. We're going to pay for ourselves and then some. You're going to be profitable on this, but like your growth is going to need to come from human to human sales. So like they really started investing more into trade shows and events to like get their kind of stuff out there. They invested in more actual literal door-to-door sales teams that were going, they were just identifying buildings of a certain size and just sending people out door to door. And then literally cold calling as well, which has been like building that kind of outbound sales. So in that industry, again, it's not what you do. It's not what you're going to do for them, but having this level of information and insight is going to be, you're going to make yourself incredibly valuable to them. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess like in the context of that, like what were the key offers that you were driving to kind of, stimulate interest in those sales, right? Because as I said, these are pretty high profile sales, right? Or, they cost a lot. So I know there had to be something there that kind of reeled them in initially when we're talking about dealing with these high profile people.
So for us, like our campaigns are, so we tested a lot of things. We tested LinkedIn marketing, we tested Facebook ads. But ultimately, like we settled on search marketing because we were able to tie it to those again, like jail, schools, like airplane hangars was another one, like airplane hangar lighting. Like we were able to tie it to enough keyword volume that we could drive enough volume and demand. I mean, we're producing like 70 qualified leads per month for them, and they're spending like 25,000 a month on ads in SEO with it, maybe a little bit like 30,000 a month on ads and SEO with us.
Mm.
So, and that's produced, I think, like 12 million in signed contracts for them. So it's the same type of thing, not a ton of signed contracts. It's just the value of those contracts is so high that, it's paying for itself. And so for us in that instance, because we're able to get keywords figured out, but like in all transparency, like the CEO of that company is also a close friend of mine. So he gave us like a lot of leeway. Like it took like 4 months of testing where, dude, they went through like 7 agencies. They all failed because
Wow.
they couldn't figure out this problem that we're discussing now. They just took a generic approach. They set up AdWords and they're like, yeah, we're just going to go after lighting keywords. But like when you took that actual keyword and put it into Google, like Home Depot was showing up. We're like, that's not the right keyword. Like we have to figure out like, but what, like when we're searching for these keywords, the intent that we want has to align with what we see in the search results, right?
Yeah.
Which is why they were failing. So I don't have an answer for you on your specific one. It's something that's going to take time to
Yeah.
figure it out. Like it's, in campaigns like this, that's why they're worth so much money, because like if you can crack this problem and like you're going to make a lot of money off of this, you may or
Yeah.
may not be able to do that, but you're asking the right questions, and it's like important not to just get pigeonholed and try. There's an example too, going back to what I was just talking about before, with Paul, that like we can't just jam SEO on everyone anymore. Like
Yeah.
it just doesn't make sense. Like if nobody's searching for it, number one, that's an obvious red flag. But also too, like if you can find some keywords and you put them into Google and you're like, okay, like Google sees this as a different result, or there's just no breathing room for us to get any visibility here, or it's going to take too long. Like we can't just jam SEO on people anymore,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's so you just keep asking questions like, this is not going to be a problem that we're going to figure out in 10 minutes together here, but um, it's something that's solvable. You just have to kind of go through the process of trying to figure out what the right avenues and channels are. And if you can identify the who is the most important thing. If you can identify the who, then marketing becomes much easier.
Yeah. Okay. So just to kind of recap, because this was a lot of really good information. So the first thing was, focus on keywords that really go, I guess you could say, not so much in depth, but more horizontal. So how can you cover much more ground with your keywords? Identify the who. And I think there was another key component to that statement that you said there. And then, the third thing is that these industries are very sales driven. So you really need to be thinking about, after when you're able to get them on your page, convert them, what is going to really be the next steps to help them along the way. I think there was
Yeah.
something else that I'm missing there.
No, the sales part is a big part of it, right? And in we're marketers, we're not salespeople, right? In a sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I for like everyone here, if you're working with e-commerce, it's different. But like in e-commerce, it requires a different skill set. But like if you're doing B2B marketing, like you have to understand intimately what their sales cycle is, because again, like I'm gonna keep beating this horse over and over and over again. Like it's not enough to just do the marketing on the front end and like get a lead in the door, because that lead in the door, how many of those quote unquote leads do you need to get into that become clients for them? Because they're going to gauge you on how many, ultimately the revenue that they're making, not the leads that you're generating.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about, again, like the state of this country and the state of like where we're going, like it's not going to get easier. Like it's going to get harder. Like you are going to be judged on the revenue that you drive, not on the keywords that you identify and the content that you create. Like it's about making people money. So like it would behoove you to understand what their sales process, and you're just going to be much more valuable too. And that's the other thing too, is that like what I was talking about with this attorney, when we sat down and had this conversation, he was like, man, we've never had like we've worked with 10 agencies before. I've had 2 people in house. Like nobody has ever had this conversation with us. Like no one's ever sat down to take the time to like understand how marketing connects with our sales and intake, and ultimately like how, like what does this turn into in terms of revenue and profit for the business. And ultimately, like that's what we need to be focused on. So for you, understanding what does that sales cycle look like, right? And also like you might not be able to drive a hot lead to them. What I mean by that is like you might be only able to drive, if you think about like old school SaaS marketing, it was like webinars and ebooks.
Mm-hmm.
You would opt in for it and then they would call you right away. Like that's sales, that's not marketing, and like
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying too, is like you have to look for the avenue that you can do. And if that's the best that you can do, like an ebook opt-in, then like you need to integrate with sales and be like, yo, you need to call this fucking person like within 10 seconds of that lead coming in. Like you need to have like that is what you need to be able to work with them and figure out, because that's how you're going to stay with them for a long time and ultimately figure out this problem. It's not going to be figured out in a month, 3 months, 6 months. It might take a year. It took us like the better part of a year to actually get profits contracts signed with this company, but now like they'll never fire us, man. I mean, we're taking
Yeah.
5% of all these contracts signed. Like it's insane how much they're paying us now for this off of their own.
That's Now, this is really good. I have two more questions. I want to be mindful of the time here for everybody to get their calls in,
Sure.
if that's okay. So I guess to that point, right, given that this is a super niche industry, right, one of the things that I was thinking about was I really probably do need to hop on a call to actually lay out the sales process, really, I guess, lay out a funnel process of like what is going to look like from the moment we generate a lead to what's going on in the back end. So I'm also in tune with what they're doing on their end. If there's anywhere that I can provide value, is that one of the really good? Is that essentially what you're
Yeah, I would
tagging
ask them. I
people
would say, what CRM are you using? Can we take a look? Can I see what your sales cycle looks like?
with?
Like, you know what I mean? Like, what are the stages? How does it progress through it? Like, do you proposals? What's your standard, like, lead to show up? Like all that different stuff. Um, you should definitely be having those conversations. They're
Okay.
at the very least, they're gonna look at you like, okay, like I appreciate you getting this information because um and talk to their sales team too. What did that was the other thing, dude. We spent a lot of time talking to their sales team because they didn't really have any marketing people that were worth their salt, if you will. And the sales team was the one that like was able to tell us, like, yeah, we're closing deals. Like we're doing very well right now with jails. Like jails are very big contracts for us. So if you can figure out like, so we sat down because we didn't know, man. We were looking at like initially when we sat down with a company, they're like, yeah, we do lighting as a service. That was a direction that they pushed us in, and we went down that direction. I was like, I don't think we're gonna be able to do this, man. Like so. Eventually, I was like, let's talk to their sales team and see what their sales like. Let's talk about what contracts they're closing, what type of companies are there, like who is the person that's signing the deal, who's the person that reach out to them. Like is it a manager, is it the owner? And that was when we were like, okay, the person is all over the place, but we're starting to see patterns with the industry that they're working in. Again, like jails, schools was another big one. Franchise restaurants, like restaurants that had like 10 or more locations, because when they do this lighting service, they do them all at the same time. Those are really good contracts for them. So, have a conversation with sales to see again, who are you talking to? Like who's coming to you? You know what I mean? Like who are you having these relationships with that are ultimately pulling the trigger on these deals?
Okay, awesome. My last question is, as I'm kind of going down this journey, what are some resources you recommend also deep diving into that can go into different things as it pertains to search or paid ads?
Um, I don't know, man. I
I
mean, I
have a
think
few, but I just always looking for like
yeah,
whatever
I mean,
goes from there.
honestly, what I do is maybe we're at different points in our businesses, but I bring in talent. I bring in people that know this stuff. So, for example,
Mhm.
um, my paid search contractor is amazing. I've been using him for a year and a half, but he's kind of at his capacity with clients. So, I post on my LinkedIn, I post a job, I post on my Twitter, I post on my Facebook. I was like, I need anybody who's done any sort of paid ads with personal injury attorneys that's spending more than $50,000. And I had like 10 conversations with contractors, agencies, and do the amount of information that I get from these people for free. And I am trying to hire someone too, but like asking them, like, can I see your campaigns? Like, what's working with Lenny? Like just asking them, like, so going back to what I was telling Paul too, Paul, I should have told you this. Like I'm learning from people, like just asking them questions. It's like
Mhm.
secret shopping stuff. But I'm like, yeah, you've done this before. Can I see your campaigns? Like on Facebook, like what type of creative are you guys using? Like what's your average cost per lead? Like what's the actual connect to call rate after you generate these leads? Like how many leads does it take to generate a client for a personal injury attorney? Right. So like um I'm using people out there to just shortcut this information for me. Like trainings and stuff are great. I was a training program here. I'm not going to unsell you on this, but it can take a while to kind of get the information that you need. Um,
Absolutely. No, I appreciate this, Ryan. See you
all
out there in Miami.
right, brother. Austin, what's going on, man?
Too much. How you doing?
Good, good. How can I help?
So, got a couple questions, all basically stemming from I have an agency that we've been kind of working with. Originally, it was e-commerce clients, and then it kind of branched out. And it was kind of exactly what you've said. We've gotten really good results, but it's brute force, so much work because nothing's processed. It's B2B, it's education clients, all that mess. So right now I'm kind of looking at, I have 2 senior SEOs, 2 juniors, 2 backlink builders, backlink manager, US writers, all that stuff. So it's like we're doing good. I'm kind of right now looking at transitioning to local. I figured out leads, I can sell all that type of stuff. It's more of like, how do I sleep well at night and not every day be checking like the workload? In the middle of that process, I'm trying to go over myself if I want to hire a project manager or more an assistant. It's something I've like never actually done. I've always hired people that can make me more money, not someone that's just going to make my life easier. And I've had interviews with project managers and they come in with all this certifications and all this stuff. And I'm like, wow, that seems like so much overkill. So I'm curious if you have any feedback on like hiring in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So you said you specialize in e-commerce, or you're a little bit all over the map?
At the now it's like 60% of clients are e-commerce,
Okay.
40% are like B2B or local, and B2B and local are so much better for the reasons like the conversation you just
Yeah.
had. Like ROIs are so much higher.
Yeah. So before I answer that question, I will say this. I don't do much e-commerce marketing at all because right brain, left brain from what the businesses that I built. And also how I market myself, right? I do B2B marketing for myself. So I'm able to learn through what I care about most, myself, right?
Yeah.
But I will say this. I've been working with some friend of mine's on this massive cannabis company. I've talked about this before, and they have an apparel brand that they have kind of spun off that uh, well, I do the marketing for that too. And Facebook ads crush it right now for e-commerce, man. Like it's actually crazy. Like as soon as you give Facebook any level of Facebook or Instagram, any level of intent as a consumer that you're interested in buying something, your feed is then bombarded with the exact same product. It's like nuts how they're able to match down to the product, right? So for example, have to go to a wedding next week in Mexico City, and I just found out it's black tie. I don't have a tux. And I did like an Amazon search and I did a Google search for like tux, and I was like, oh, this is fucking overwhelming. I'm just gonna find somewhere locally. Next thing you know, Instagram, tuxedos, bow ties, shoot, like, dude, it's like nuts. That like my feed now, like I can't get away from this stuff, right? So the I guess before you like kind of jump ship on e-commerce, if that makes up 60% of your portfolio because SEO has gotten too hard, again, what I told Paul, same thing, like be loyal to the industry in your client, not to the service, right? Just because it's easier to do local SEO right now, like, dude, Google is a fart in the wind, man. They change every couple of weeks, right? Like there's no guarantee that local SEO, if you completely retool your business to service local SEO, there's no guarantee that in 6 months from now that's going to be the same thing. So that's why I always say like do not like F Google, guys. Like I mean that. Like we don't even know. Like Google's probably going to get blown up by the US government for being a monopoly, which in my opinion is un-American, but like it is what it is. Like they might get blown up and like everything as we know it could be changed, right? So like at the blueprint, that presents a bit of a problem because all of our programs built towards SEO. But for my agency clients, I'm like, dude, blow up Google, please. Because if that happens, the law firm market is going to be in so much disarray. And I'm going to be like, I have a plan, guys. I don't do Google marketing. I do lawyer marketing, right? So just
Yeah.
that before we get into the hiring thing. So
Yeah. I guess one thing to that point, my real goal getting into local isn't Google. It's like I've gone through all your processes, heard you talk about that. It's more being the one-stop marketing agency
yeah,
for
I got you.
local and niching on like HVAC, or I'm kind of looking at home builders. And I have client in home building and it's like, oh my God,
Yeah,
coming from SEO, I'm like, this is so much easier. Oh, they're hiring someone else for social. And I'm like, oh, we can easily do this. Like there's so much
I
that we
got
can
you.
do. And
It's easier. It's less competitive. I get it.
yeah,
And also LSAs are like the easiest thing in the whole
yeah.
world to generate leads. Okay. So to answer your question now about hiring. So, I mean, what do you see as a bigger pain in the ass for you, right? Like, is it so your assistant, they would help you out with like personal stuff too, like email management, like are they local? Are they virtual? Is it
Yeah, it would be virtual. And yeah, I guess what I'm looking at is like the one reason not a project manager is because I think I know I'm full-time work. Anybody that's like good, I think is gonna be like, all right, 3 hours a day and that's it. You know, the reason it sucks now is because exactly doing 100 things a day.
Yeah.
So my kind of thought was with an assistant being like, okay, actually giving them 3 hours a day. This is what you're doing when you log in,
Yeah.
then helping me with, yeah, whatever,
So
posting, lead gen, that type of stuff.
got you. So okay. So they would be helping you with like business stuff too, like social media management. Okay. Okay. And with a project manager too, I understand where you're coming from. Sometimes project managers, um, like you don't need somebody who's like PMP certified to do project management for you. You know, in fact, I think project manager is probably one of the hardest positions to hire for because if you want to do project management at my agency, you need to know the marketing very well because we are asking you to take ownership of deliverables, of communication. So like I've talked about this before, like we don't have dedicated project managers right now. Um, I do more at the personal level. So Dragana, who works here at the Blueprint, she does project management for a lot of stuff in the Blueprint, but she also does project management for all of our content generation, right? So, you know, like that, she's not an assistant, right? But she's doing a lot of things that you might put under an assistant's, like from a social media management point of view, right? But she's technically a project manager and probably like a content manager and social media manager kind of rolled into one, right? Um, so I can only speak on this personally too. Like I've never, I tried to hire an assistant and it didn't work out because it was just one, it was like the crux of one of those things where I was like, I'll just do this myself. Right. Like email management, like I'll just do it myself. You know what I mean? Like it's so I always look at things like as hiring a person as an investment, right? To your point, like when I bring somebody in, it's taking a step back in terms of income, but it's taking two steps forward in terms of the business's progress and taking things off of my plate that frankly I shouldn't be doing anymore. Right. Like mucking around in Asana, dealing with like video content and shorts and YouTube graphics, like it wasn't a good use of my time anymore. Right. And so I've always handled my hiring with things that are like, okay, my cup is too full with things that like I just don't need to be doing this stuff. Right. It's the business is going to be in a better position. I'm going to be in a better position if I just bring somebody in, even if I have to train them for a while to learn how to do it. Once I get this off my plate, I'll be able to focus on bigger things. So I don't have a direct answer for you, you know, but like I know like Jason Hennessy, I've seen his talks before. Like I don't know if you've seen his talk. He's got like a slide where he's like, if you don't have an assistant, then you are your own assistant. But like he also runs a $20 million a year business. You know what I mean? Like and he's talking to people that are making like, you know, 500K a year. And I've always looked at that and I'm like, I don't know, man. Like I like an assistant to me is somebody that like when it's better that's in person too. Like somebody that like if they're gonna actually integrate into your personal life. And I'm talking about like old school stuff, like dry, like not that we do this anymore, like your dry cleaning, you know what I mean? Like helping her out with like stuff, taking it like your personal life is also overflowing that you need somebody's professional help to manage it. I've never really had a problem with that personally. But again, it's you. Like it's just what's the biggest pain in the ass for you? What's the biggest headache for you? If you feel like an assistant is going to free up a lot of your time, then get an assistant, right? But for me, I'm always looking at bringing in folks on the business side because I can handle my personal life, and I also really don't want sometimes people in my personal life that deep. Um,
So with that, is it, I guess something you kind of mentioned was like, have you had maybe better luck getting somebody that's like, hey, you're good at content and you feel like, hey, they can definitely review content and then you're making them like head of content and that's who's communicating with their clients? Like I kind of have that right now, but it's my senior SEOs who are like bombarded with work. So I
yeah,
kind of want to make their life easier.
yeah. So yes. So like specifically our content people, we usually bring in writers that like I find it much easier to train people on like a writer on SEO than an SEO on writing. So our content people are all writers and editors that we give writing work and then we're like, okay, these people are really good. Like, can we bring them in for more? How do they communicate? Are they good on a Zoom call? Like, are we comfortable with them?
Yeah.
Uh, you know, talking to clients. And honestly, like I'm at the point too, we kind of let anybody talk to clients. Like I don't like email, especially like we don't really care. Offshore people, like we don't really do that anymore. But we're also now at the point where we have got such good systems and processes and we're so dialed in on our like core work, like local SEO stuff, GBP optimizations, even like link building stuff like that,
Yeah.
that we're now, and we're signing much bigger contracts. Like we just signed an attorney for 20,000 a month. It's our biggest, like just SEO and like kind of like holistic marketing with an attorney contract. And what I did there is I went out to a consultant, a guy that I know that I've worked with who's done work for me personally. And I'm like, well, we're gonna give you $5,000 a month to manage this account for us. You know, like I need 20 hours a week from you. Like these are, I was very clear with their expectations. Like he's essentially a project manager, right? Who's also managing client calls, communication, report, like all like the really important things. We're basically just at the point where like we're willing to take 25% off the top and go hire somebody who is like at the level of the people here, right? Like really good marketer, really good communicator. That's because our core processes are so on point. And he's now just sitting on top of those people. Cause I'm like, look, I'm like, you're not gonna, we're doing local SEO, but I'm not gonna make you do like GBP optimizations, but I need you to be the person who's making sure that that gets done and then communicate to the client. So we're kind of moving into that model a little bit. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think that actually is like what rang about the most with me is like having the clients that actually need the attention and deserve the attention. Just bring somebody there, because there is half of my clients that it's like there's just never been an issue. You know, it's just like set deliverables, it works, boom. And then there's the other clients that's like every 3 months, you know, they pay enough that every 3 months when they want to change something, you're like, okay, you know, I guess and it causes a huge headache.
Yeah, 100%.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Answer the questions.
Cody, what's up, my man?
Not a lot, man. Thanks for doing the Q&A and taking the time to answer these questions. I had just a real quick process question, and this is something I was talking to you about in Slack the other day. So changing the business name of a Google profile based on keyword research. You had mentioned that you have your clients file a DBA. So we actually got in experimenting with this process, we did get a client to go ahead and file a DBA. What I wanted from you was just maybe kind of like a look behind the curtain on what happens next, right? Like, how does this interaction with Google typically work for you?
So if you go that, what's the industry in the
So it'll be HVAC.
HVAC? Okay, what did you like? It's just like HVAC pros or something like that, like
More or less, yeah. It's like a Fort Collins HVAC business, and it looks like the best primary keyword to add there is just Fort Collins HVAC repair.
Got it. And before with the Google business profile, did you try putting that in the title and it got ripped down?
No, and that's kind of why I brought this up, because my understanding is it would, and like potential suspension. So I'm pretty keen on doing it the safest way possible. So we've got the DBA now. They've got, you know, their paperwork and stuff like that. Do I just go ahead and add it to Google Business Profile, and then if they hit us?
Yeah, so good question. So in short, yes, right? But I would also make sure that like your citations and also your we call them tier 3. If you went through our link builds, I call them like tier 3 links. So I'm trying to think of like HVAC. So it might be like Angie's List and stuff like that, right? That the titles are reflected there. Do they have an LSA account? Are you doing LSAs for them?
I'm not entirely sure, actually. That would be a different part of our agency that handles that, but I can double check.
Okay. So I would suggest, even if you don't run them, like setting up their LSA account because it's tied to the Google Business Profile. And during that process, they do like a business verification check where you need to provide business documentation to get like Google screened if you've seen those ads. I highly suggest you run those suggest running LSAs for them anyways, because it's going to drive phone calls tomorrow. But that will help with it too. So like then and at that point, like I would do this all in like one day if you can, right? So like in a very short sprint to get everything updated, then go through the LSA process. The LSA account is now tied to Google Business Profile. So when that's updated, you have the business documentation to provide to it. You should be fine. Like it like I know I forget who said it, but like that they're ripping them down. We've definitely had accounts that were the titles were changed back on us. We haven't had anyone suspended for it, but like now with personal injury, because basically what happens in the personal injury space is that like there's literally people who go through and like report titles right to Google or have titles changed. They move you on. It's like a very dirty industry because it's so competitive and there's so much money in it. So we've now moved to that as like a fail safe too, because they're investing so much money with us that we want to make sure that we're at least recommending that to them during the onboarding process. We're like, hey, you know, it's really going to help us out and help you out if we can get personal injury lawyer in your title, right? Or just injury lawyer. Sometimes the easiest because they're concerned about brand too. So we have one client where it's just his name and then like hyphen like injury lawyer, like just to get, or like injury lawyers or like injury firm, just to get that in the title. So it's not as like direct keyword spammy as like Miami personal injury lawyer. Also too, because if you're going to open more locations in the future, I might suggest not putting the exact location inside of that. Because then it might get a little bit tricky with the DBA situation. But like just HVAC pros or like whatever the business name is with like the root keyword of the category inside of it should be enough to help out.
Got it. Cool. So basically, go through, hit all their tier one verifications. If they don't already have an LSA, set it up with a new business name. If they do, change the business name there in the LSA, and then we shouldn't have a problem changing the Google business profile. If hypothetically we did, they would probably just ask for verification and we could submit that documentation.
Yeah, exactly. With the LSA process makes you do that. So like that's what I'm saying, setting up that account, you should be like that should be the end of it,
Cool. Sweet. Appreciate you, man.
Of course, man. Anybody else got questions?
How many people are coming to Miami?
I think I think we have probably like 60 people that have signed up. But we started pushing some virtual tickets in there as well. I think realistically, I probably think like so Elena said around 70. Okay. I think probably like half of that will end up actually showing up in person. I actually wanted to keep it so like we've been running some ads for it, but I've wanted to keep this very small for like Blueprint members only. A lot of reasons. I don't really have any interest in running like big events and conferences, and this to me is so much more of like I just want to meet all of you guys in person and have you guys meet each other in person too. I think that it's good for the health of this business, the long-term health for everyone to build lasting, meaningful relationships. And also too, I'm doing my lead generation training there, which I'm extremely excited about. So like all of you guys who it's by far the number one thing that we get asked about is like lead generation training. And I'm going to be doing like my content marketing and like advertising promotion system. It's going to be really badass. I'm actually really excited about it. It's probably, in my opinion, the most impactful training that like I've ever given, because it just works. And also too, like with that note, even if you don't do it for yourself, when we talk about like offers for clients or just kind of like understanding what to be always doing for clients, this is like a foundational type of training, right? If you're going to be in the B2B local, obviously e-commerce is outside of this. But if you're in the B2B lead generation local space, when we talk about like what's next after SEO, like this is kind of like a core operating system that you can use to then pivot into anything. So Paul was asking about LinkedIn, right? Like if you're running this system for yourself, it becomes so easy to do it for clients, because you've kind of got that core content foundational element that's already built into the business. Go ahead, Marco. What's up, man?
Hey, what's going on? Just quick question. For the train, like I'm going through all the training right now, like on the in school, and really like looking forward to the event itself. So I wanted to know, like, is there anything in particular that you really focus on having like done before I come to the event to get get the most out of it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, good question. No, there's nothing that you need to prepare for. Just bring your fun hat. I don't know, that was corny. Just this is like like I said, I really made an emphasis with my team internally that like I didn't want to make this an event that was like about me just talking to you guys. Ben is also going to be doing some training that we haven't done before in terms of like Ben is a new partner here. If you guys haven't met Ben, he's very involved in our coaching program. Something that he does very well that I've never done very well is like goal setting and kind of like personal accountability. So we're going to be doing a lot of that in terms of like setting the table for 2025, kind of working on the mental side of the business as well, if you will. But aside from that, man, this is like I'm going to be doing some lead generation training, but really this is really much more of a, come down to Miami when the weather's good, spend some time with like-minded people, just relax for a little bit. learn from each other, you know, build some relationships. Like you'd be surprised how much money you can make when you work with other people in the industry too, and you get to know other people too, even if you're selling the exact same thing to the exact same type of client. I mean, if you just look at some of the people that I bring in here for talks, Tennessee, Chris Dreyer, they are direct competitors of mine in the space. But they are valuable connections for me for a lot of reasons, you know. And when we talk about networking, I would be the first to admit that I'm not like the best networker, but networking is not something that happens overnight. It's something that relationships take time to flourish, and like you just have to kind of like be introduced to those people. And that's what I'm really hoping for this, is that we want to start doing this event twice a year. We'll do it in Miami once a year or somewhere else. And then ideally we want to start doing these quarterly, you know, in person and virtual as well. So this is just kind of like a foundational event for us internally also to get a feel for like, what does this look like? How much is this going to cost? Like to be upfront, like we are losing money on this event. This is not a money-making event for us by any means, but we're okay with that because we believe that this is going to provide fruit for the business long term, just in terms of, you know, building relationships in the community and ideally also turning you guys into champions of this community as well, you know. So yeah, nothing to prepare, Marco. Just come and enjoy yourself. We're even giving you notepads. They came in the mail, actually. Elena, they're really small, Elena, by the way. I don't know if they're supposed to be that small.
Cool. Sounds good. Look forward to it.
I don't know how many notes you're gonna take on that. We might have to get some more, but we got some stuff, t-shirts and stuff. Giving away gonna be giving away some awards to some people in the community as well. So again, just kind of like building more of a community aspect here. That's what this event is all about. Anybody else?
Yeah, I got a quick question.
Yeah, go for it, Josh.
I just landed my first like local SEO client. I'm in the website side of things, so I just landed that. But do you guys have any guidance in towards like tracking or lead? Basically, like I know you're talking about the qualified leads or
Yeah.
different types of that. Do you guys use any tools, or is that kind of just they vet it themselves and
No, great
let you vet it?
question. So it should be inside of school now. Elena, if you can drop a link for Josh for the tracking and reporting bootcamp that we just did, but I'll just kind of give you a quick summary here too, Josh. So for local, because we do LSA. So all of our clients, we do LSAs for as well. Local service ads, if you're not familiar with them. We're actually doing a bootcamp on LSAs in December too. Really excited about that, to teach you guys how to do it. Because they are like a no-brainer for clients. You're going to make the money very quickly with them, especially in like home services industries. So we use What Converts, which is a call tracking platform. Call Rail is also really good. What Converts is a little bit cheaper, so we use that. We set up conversion tracking inside of Google Analytics. So essentially, anybody that like submits a form on the website or a live chat, we track that in Google Analytics. And aside from that, that's kind of it, because Google Business Profile does a really good job of tracking phone calls, clicks from the local SERPs. So all we do is we pull all of that into a single report, and we use agency analytics for that. And agency analytics is good because it makes things very easy in terms of just pulling everything into a single dashboard. Elena just posted the link to the training inside the chat. Cool. Check that out. So yeah, we'd like to keep it simple, especially for local businesses. Like, don't give them too much information. Like traditional SEO reports that have like, I used to use like a 12-page SEO report that like, that was my SEO nerd inside of me being like, yeah, look at all this cool stuff I'm tracking. And clients were like, this is too much information, dude. Like, what am I paying you? What am I making? Those are like the two things that we need to focus on with especially local clients. Like if you overload them with too much information, then they either don't look or they get frustrated with it, especially attorneys. They like ball up when you give them like too much technical information. So keep the main thing, you know.
Yep.
And these platforms do a lot of the tracking for you. Go ahead.
Are you like talking about different levels of the kind of leads, like the sales qualified leads, or kind of are you filtering out crap leads, or is there any way you're doing that?
Yeah, good question. So if they're using a CRM, then yes, we're tracking that for them. most of our client, I would say like 50% of our clients are using CRMs, and the 50% that are using CRMs, only 50% of them are using them right. So like 20% of our clients we're able to do that with, because if you have a CRM and they're not tracking like how that lead is progressing through their stage, then there's no way that we can track that, you know? We have some clients that we do like a manual spreadsheet with, like our bigger clients that are spending a lot on paid ads. We'll do that for them. But that's a pain because we have to do like bi-monthly calls with them and, you know, go through every single lead one by one. So in short, yes, we are. We're trying to move. I actually just had a long call with Caesar, excuse me, about how we can better report on that, in terms of, because traditionally, yes, like we've not done a great job on reporting on full life cycle, mainly because we make the excuse like, they're not tracking it, so we're not going to. But like I've really pushed our team to track not just front end MQLs, which is easy because the platforms do it for us, like AdWords, LSAs, analytics. Like at the bare minimum, like yeah, we'll do that for all of our clients. They get access to that, but it makes it difficult for us, um, because um, because they then will come like 3 months later and be like, and we'll be like, yeah, like your lead generation is going good, and they're like, but it's not. We're not closing any clients. And we're like, well, you didn't give us that information. You know, like if you don't give us that information, then we can't know that. But I've now realized that's my responsibility to do that. So like we're currently retooling our onboarding process to make sure that we're like going very in detail, like, one, do you have a CRM? Two, like we need access to it so we can review it to see if it's set up and tracked properly. And then three, you know, making a more conscious effort internally to talk about these things, right? And then on client calls as well, like we really spend the time to like literally go through their leads with them, especially if we're doing paid for them. If we're doing organic, we'll kind of need to buy some time because it just, you know, it takes time to get the results in. But again, that's why LSAs are also so good, because within 1 month we're getting them phone calls.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sweet, man. Thanks.
Of course. All right, everybody. I appreciate your time and your attention as always. If you guys need me, just hit us up in Slack. All right. Have a great day.